Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to today's webinar. This is going to be an exclusive look into how dealers can leverage data and analytics to win in 2026. And before I hand the floor on over to our dealership analytics expert, Udi, I want to let you all know that today's webinar will be recorded and we'll email you a link to the recording within the next 24 hours, so you can keep an eye out for that in your email inbox. And secondly, Udi will be taking pauses throughout the presentation to answer questions. So you can drop your questions using that Q&A box that I mentioned. So again, it's the speech bubble with the little question mark in it. You can drop your questions there at any time, and we'll take pauses throughout to answer them. And we'll also take that opportunity to put some polls up on the screen. So please participate. It's anonymous, so don't be shy. And finally, a survey will pop up at the end of the webinar. And we would really appreciate it if you just took a couple of seconds to answer the questions, because your feedback is very important to us. All right, without further ado, over to you, Udi.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time, spend a few minutes with us to talk a little bit about knowing your numbers, what numbers, why is it important, what can you achieve with that. We'll try and add and provide some information to you about that. My name is Udi. I am at DIS an initiative manager, same as a product manager in a way. I am currently working on our dealer analytics initiative, and that's why I'm connected to the numbers. You could see here on the bottom my email address. If later on you have any questions, you want to know anything that I can help you with, please feel free to contact me at any time. Let's jump right into it. I'd like to make the argument that knowing your numbers is essential. It's, today, if you look into any business, all businesses monitor main metrics. Equipment dealers are not different. It's the same thing. Metrics simplify the management of the business. The business system is complex. It's hard to know what is being done, how it's being done. People invented those metrics to make it more manageable. And if your metrics, if you can look into a number, it's not good, you know that you need corrections. And normally, managers that do not know the numbers are kind of like a higher risk, right? It's as simple as if you happen to listen to kind of like the Shark Tank on TV, right? And somebody comes and makes a pitch. The first thing they'll want to know is, do you want to know your numbers? Do you know your numbers? If you don't know your numbers, they'll immediately say, okay, you are a high risk. I'm not so sure we want to give you an investment. And you need to know your numbers if you want to meet your period end goals. If you don't know where you stand, it's hard to know what do I need to do to get the goals. And the bottom line is, if the sum of the arguments, as you see here in that quote, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And when I say you, that is not just a specific person in the dealership. That's the dealership in general, and that's probably every manager in the dealership. If they don't know their numbers, they don't know their specific part of the business. And when you know your numbers, then you can manage them, right? The saying is, what is measured is managed. Traditionally, a lot of dealerships were successful because they had the person that was very heavy on the experience through years, and they knew by gut what to do. But today the market is more complex, and gut intuition, it's not a bad thing. It's going to be in many cases inferior to what the data would do. Quite often, you can go to a dealership and you can ask, let's say, about this technician, and tell you, oh, this technician is excellent, he's doing wonderful work. But then you look at the numbers, and it's not the best technician that you have. So not a little bit inferior to when you're doing with data. And then the question is, and that's what I'll try and put kind of like a little bit propose to you guys, right? Should you make kind of like more data-driven intuition? Don't just build on the intuition, but use the data. A goal for 2026 to get to know that. And if in order to do that, you really need to know your numbers, both ongoing at the time of your need, right? I need it right now. I need to make a decision. I need to know my numbers. So with that, I'll jump start the first portion, as was in the agenda for this webinar. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers to track and the potential effect. I won't be able to go through all of them, but I'll give you some examples of them, right? So if you want to know your service business, right, there's a lot of numbers that you might want to know. Listed here, a subset of those, probably fairly complete subset, but you want to know those. And what I marked here in green is what we think you might want to know every day. Just go and see, what is my sales today? Where am I standing? What is my gross margin? Where am I standing on my financial? What am I standing on my working process? Where am I standing on the services that I'm selling, right? Where am I standing on all those? And then you have all the others. And for example, I took the billing efficiency of the department or of the technician. Some people call it the technician efficiency, right? And what's the effect if you manage the efficiency? If you are able, you can read here the case. The calculation is very simple, but sometimes people don't pay attention to it. But if you have a billing efficiency of 90%, and you increase it to 95%, that is about $7,500 a year per technician. It's significant that all goes into the service, the gross profit of the service. And when it goes into the gross profit of the service, it goes into increasing your absorption. And of course, the higher your absorption is, the more money you have to allocate to other activities and for your growth. It becomes even more attractive if you know your numbers, let's say on the recovery, where in a lot of dealers, for example, people get into thinking, oh, I don't want to hurt the technicians, so even if they bill internally, right, I'll put it into the efficiency, but that doesn't create any dollars that are coming in. If you build it such that that is in the recovery and challenged the dealership to reduce the internal work to just what's needed, not to just burn time, then you may, if you increase also the recovery from 80 to 85%, now you're looking into even a larger number that you can do. So that's the effective of just one number that you want to know and you want to work on. If you look into your parts business, these are the numbers that you might want to know, and I'll share with you a resource where all these numbers appear in. And let's take a look, for example, into all these metrics that you have, that you're looking into, that basically control the amount of inventory that you have, right? And the effect of managing things like your turn rate and your inventory, right? Some examples might be the cost of carrying, right? The rule of thumb is when you hold inventory, it's 2% of its value per month costing you to hold it. And then that means if for every $100,000 that you reduce, you save $2,000 a month, right? So you want to know these numbers, and you want to make them something that your managers know, so they are aware and they are working to improve on them. Or quite often when we expose the numbers to people, suddenly we see, oh, there's a significant percentage of non-moving inventory. Well, non-moving inventory, again, sits in the cost of carrying, but just by removing it, just by returning it or whatever it is that you need to do to remove it, right? You can save, as the example here, right, of 8% of it on a $1 million inventory is $8,000. It's a one time, but afterwards it's another $8,000 that is in the cash flow and not goes back into the inventory. As George Russell, those of you who know about him, right, he is a consultant in the industry, and the way that he put it, right, the cost of carrying a part for 1 month of 2% of its value, it just means that the part that you carried for a year is not going to make any more money on it. So it's always, of course, a question of balance between, you know, how good is your supply chain. For some parts, it's better than for the others. So it's always a balancing, but if you can reduce it, this is the effect. So that's why you want to look into the numbers and you want to understand them and know your numbers. Some of the numbers that you want to look into when you're just looking into your dealership. Earlier in 2025, we had a webinar about absorption, right, which is an important number for you to know. From all these numbers, I wanted to address a little bit, give you an example on the gross margin. Sounds fairly straightforward, right? Everybody understands the gross margin, but maybe you didn't look at that in a way, for example, as in this square. An increase of 5% in the gross margin means that you can withstand 17% of sales drop, and you still keep the same amount of money that goes into your operation, or your gross profit that goes into the operations. Right, so 5% here is 17% there. Or, you know, if you come and you can tell, you can work with your, let's say, just the parts department to increase their gross profit by 1 to 2%, maybe by as simple as implementing a parts pricing metrics, right, which is based on the idea, for those of you who are less familiar, based on the idea that on lower cost parts, right, the margin can be, they can suffer a little bit a higher margin than a higher cost, right? So if you have a part that costs a cent, it can be priced at 5 cents. But if you have a price that something that costs $10,000, it cannot be priced at $50,000, right? It can be priced only at whatever it is, $12,000 or whatever the number might be. So if you just by paying attention and looking at the numbers and understanding the gross profit, let's say on the department, and try to increase it, right? On $100, $1,000 a month, it's $1,000 per month. So gross profit is not an issue of a CFO only, right? Yeah, he needs to know that, but it's not just, he cannot really improve it, right? He needs to know it. It's all your managers contribute to improve such a number. They all need to know their numbers. So that is easier said than done, right? It's just not easy, right? Everybody who wants to know the numbers needs to have some access to the DMS, and they need to have a license, and they need to go to the computer, or they need to hold a report in their hands so they know what the number is, because otherwise I don't really know what the number is of yesterday, right? I don't know what that is. And reports are getting old the day after they were created, and it takes a long time to publish a report. Takes even longer for some of you that have this experience with DMSs to go and extract the data and try and put it in Excel to build some report from it. And then what you find yourself is that you're using these reports now to understand the problem. So you look at the report, you see a problem, say, oh, I need to have another report to understand. I need to have a different report for a different period of time, for a different branch, for a different manufacturer, for a different, whatever the difference is. And now you repeat the whole thing in order to understand what to do. And there's so many metrics, as I showed you before, that it becomes really difficult to do. It's time consuming, and it's going to be difficult to share. So that's a little bit about the numbers and maybe help you understand why you really want to know the numbers. It doesn't matter if you're a big dealer, small dealer, you want to know your numbers. Down here, I put a link here for you to know where to find the resource that I have that I used in order to share that. And that will be something that looks for you like that, and you can see in that, and that's available on our web page. Any questions that somebody will have? I'd like to open it for some questions so far that you have for me. Also, at the same time, we are putting up a poll, and maybe just for making it interesting, if you can look into the poll, fill in the poll while you're thinking about the question, you can see the results. It might give you a little bit of a feedback and understanding where we are all standing on these kind of like topics. So yeah, go ahead and take your time and
we're seeing lots of people answering the poll.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks like most people have their managers tracking some of their numbers already, so that's great to see. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in that question box.
Cool. So thank you very much. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the questions, and Sarah will let me know. With that, I'll go into kind of shift into the second part. What is different now that makes data-driven a business best practice, right? We can make it now into a business best practice, right? What's different than before? Lucky to us, it's not a unique problem for equipment dealers. As I said before, it's all businesses. And as a result of that, the technology people are moving accordingly. So when we started doing digital conversion, which means you started using a DMS, you increased productivity and you shortened the time. You shortened the time, and you already, today it's a must-have, and you already get the return on investment from it. So you are using it, and it shortened the time, so it starts generating a lot of data. So organizations, businesses, including equipment dealers, have data about their operation, about their financials, and so on. And this potential of the data led to the creation of new technologies in that area. I would assume that you probably heard about that, and it's moving really fast. And it touches also our world. It's applicable, again, doesn't matter if you're a large or if you're a small dealer, right? In equipment dealerships, it's more of a local business. Any location generates the same amount of data, right? So you have the same problem whether you're very big or very small. The difference is just a resourcing thing. So if you have multiple locations, you have a lot of data, but you can have more locations. And these changes that we're going to talk about allow you to put less resources. And if you are smaller, you have still a lot of data, but you don't have the resources. So what these technologies will allow you now to do it with less resources. So that's the change in the technology that we are looking into. In the traditional DMS, right, you had this structure and everything went into reports. Some of them were standard reports. Some of them you extracted data and it went into Excel sheet, right? You had to pull the data out of the system, feed it into something so you can get the Excel or whatever other report generator that you have. Today, in current technology, the difference is that we have data technologies that mature, and a more current DMS will give you the ability to look into the same data in what I call here a data lake and warehouse, which enables analytics And under analytics, I put all kinds of dashboards. I put all kinds of artificial intelligence, right? It's all built on the same technologies that are there. And this time we're pushing a lot of data, not as little as we do for the report. We're pushing a lot of data, and we're doing it automatically, and we're structuring it ready to be available to people very fast. So it's really the change expands a lot of the potential ROI that you have in the system. In the traditional thing, the benefit of your DMS was the digital conversion, right? The value proposition was to increase productivity. You increased productivity. The driver for it was we had a computer suddenly. We could go paperless. We could put everything in the computer, do the digital conversion, and become more productive. However, it's a little bit more mature, both in ROI, in practice. I don't think there are a lot of dealerships today that are running without a business management system. With that new technology, the focus shifts now more into that area. And that's more about how do I make decisions, what actions do I take? And the value proposition here is about profitability. I showed you a little bit of the numbers to know. I showed you a little bit about what knowing these numbers can do. And you could see it's all about getting more profitable, right? Squeezing more money out of the system because I have the data. That's what drives us. That might be a new ROI that you get out of your business system. And it's not revolutionary. It's something that goes on like that. I'd say that these technologies that you see here probably they came mainstream sometime in the 2020s. And we are today in 2026. For us ourselves at DIS, with dealer analytics, in just 2 years that we are doing it, over 110 equipment dealers signed on, right? Almost a little bit over what we can take to put on it, right? But it's a major trend to get there. This analytics, this technology, the first thing it does is makes the number available to you, right? Either you look at it, analytics comes in a flavor of dashboards. For us, it's a daily operational control package, but it's a flavor of a dashboard. You come, you look at the numbers, you see the numbers, or a flavor of analytics dashboard. For us, it's something we call success metrics package. And that's a form of a dashboard that allows you to analyze your numbers, right? You can analyze the numbers that you are looking into. So if you look here at number one, in both cases, immediately I can see my numbers. And the nice thing about analytics, because of the way, as I showed you before, these warehouses are working, this is automatically updated. I don't need to create another report. I don't need to go and issue another Excel sheet. I don't need to send anything in the email. Everybody that has access to it can see it, and if they come tomorrow, they'll see the next number. In just a dashboard, it just shows you right here simple things into what does it mean to me? In analytics dashboard, you can actually go and then you can see, some people, it might be hard for you to see here, but you can drill through. You can jump from, oh, I see it here. What's behind that? Why is that? Let's drill through to another data set to understand what's behind that. Or you can ask questions by saying, okay, I want to look into this year. No, I want to look into last year. I want to look into 1 month. I want to look into this branch. I want to look into another branch. I want to look into that account. And so on, or this department, or that department, whichever applicable, right? You can change that, and the change is really fast. So instead of sitting in front of a report, and you almost need a report per every question that you have, here is you're sifting through the numbers and you're adjusting the numbers really quick to understand what's going on with it, why is it, what action can I take. So know your number. And this is know your number a little bit deeper. Analytics makes it available to you right away. So a little bit different than your Excel for those of you who know the numbers but using Excel. I would put forward. It's a little bit different than Excel. You can read it faster than I do, but normally if you want to access the data, you have to go to the business system and mine it. With analytics, it's just going to happen. You set it automatically and it will read it. If you look into the data volume, if you're moving stuff to Excel, you're not going to move all the invoices that you did in the last 3 years, because that might be 300,000 lines in the Excel sheet. But in analytics, you can do it. There's no problem in doing that. The technology is meant for that. If you're looking into data, you enter it manually. You're doing the calculations. You have to go and you have to create the calculation. With analytics, it's all automatic. It's all there. It calculates again and again and again. Every day it goes and it does it automatically, right? Every day it will go and calculate. Okay, so what is my gross profit today? Okay, this is it. It's done automatically. I don't have to go bring new data in and have the Excel sheet work on it. The insights are, as I hope I was able to explain before, faster to get to, and it's easier to read because it's visual, right? It's easier to read. So some of the difference here with Excel, analytics is different. Analytics, unlike a lot of people think, when you want to see your numbers, you want to manage your numbers or know your numbers, it doesn't mean that you have to break the bank. It doesn't need to mean a lot of money. Right? Normally, business intelligence can be expensive. If you look into the traditional business intelligence offerings out there, they can become very expensive. If you want to use them to share the data, to share your numbers with everybody in the organization, they can become fairly expensive because the tool and the platform are expensive. You need to have somebody who knows how to work them, and so on. You may want to consider other solutions, like from DIS, the Our Dealer Analytics solution, where it's basically focusing on equipment dealers, so we can standardize it in a way that fits dealers, and you don't have to deal with it, although you can customize it any point that you want. And then you can go and you can get it by different bundles to fit what you're trying to achieve, and that controls the cost even farther. Right, so you don't have to buy any business intelligence system. It's by far ready for you. You don't need to have any specialist in order to do that, and you can get it in different prices as you go. And of course, the designer here, if you do want to have a full scope, you can go with a full scope also, where you can create your own stuff. So it doesn't have to break the bank. Now, let me stop here for a second, and let's ask if you have any questions, and maybe put another one of those polls that might brighten your session here, give you a little bit of view into what people are doing in the industry.
Yeah, so we've got the poll up on the screen, and we did have a question come in. Does the DIS data warehouse allow for APIs from payroll providers?
Yes. So today, the DIS system or architecture, our platform, is basically what I call a big data platform. It would take data from anywhere. We can bring data in from your payroll provider, as long as they know to give us the data. But we can get the data and feed it into a warehouse on which we can create a dashboard for you to analyze that data.
Great. And if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to add them. Oh, we have another one that just came in. How often do the live reports refresh?
So that depends. Well, for DIS, that depends. Well, I'll rephrase it. When you look into analytics, normally a refresh can become a thing because the dashboard has to read the data. So that's where the refresh comes in. Also for business system, sometimes the business system works through batching and posting cycles. So it takes some, there is a cycle of relevant refresh. Also for dealer analytics, it depends on the dashboard. At the worst case, every dashboard that we have or every data warehouse, for those of you who are familiar with that term, we refresh it at least once a day, normally after all the posting, if we're talking financial information. Some dashboards, for example, like if we're looking to understand service work in process, that will refresh every 4 hours. Now, you have to also keep in mind, and it's a little bit of a mindset issue, analytics shows you the numbers and then allows you to analyze them. I mean, it's mostly about the analyzing, right? So it's not necessarily that you need to see the number right in that second. You need to know your number. You need to be able to analyze it, to take an action, and then see what happened after I took the action. So as I said, the short answer is at least once a day, and some of them are based on the content. Dashboards like the work in process will update, for example, every 4 hours to give you a more current view on where you stand. So I think we can see now in the poll where we are. And the good news is that nobody said that it doesn't apply to them. So maybe we're talking about something that brings value with it. Okay, I'll continue from here. And comes the question, okay, you want to use that, you feel the shift happening in the market, you want to start using that. The first thing you really want to do is figure out, okay, how do we drive managers and employees to know the numbers, right? We need to drive people to want to know the number, to need to know their numbers. For DIS analytics, what we did is we made analytics available to you in multiple ways. So analytics doesn't make only the numbers available, but now it makes the numbers also accessible, right? And you can get it on the computer. You can see an example here where a person can come into their environment and they can see right away, okay, these are my number, this is my dashboard, these are my numbers, this is what I did the previous year, previous month, month to date, year to date. I'm not using month to date just because the month is very short, but month to date, year to date, whatever it is that I want to see, and they can see it right here. We made it such that with analytics, the numbers are accessible to you on the go. So the same thing becomes available on a mobile device. I'm sharing it here, a mobile app. This is running on an iPad just to make it bigger, but it will run the same on your cell phone, right? And we can see here every account. What do I have in this account, and so on, right? So you can see all your information right here, all the way down to, right, what am I doing on my inventory? How am I doing on work orders? And that's for a part person, so they can see that on the go, regardless of where they are. And then we took it and we also made it integrated into where you are, integrated into where you're working, right? So for DIS, we have this tool, for example, here that we call Altura, and it's enough for a guy, for example, if you're using our Service 360, then you're going to be a user of Altura, and if you're going to come into Altura, you can make it such that the first thing you come as you go in, right, the first thing you see is, okay, these are my numbers, let me continue to drill down and let me go and do whatever it is that I need to do, but I could see my numbers and know my numbers right away, integrated into where I work. And that requires no reports to prepare, no versions to track, right? I don't have the last month, this month, show me which month it is, what year it is, and there are no emails to send. right? It's all available and it keeps being updated. So that's what analytics does. What you as the dealers do is make it transparent and make it empowering to your guy, right? Share the numbers, make them available to the employees where they are managers or other employees based on the numbers that they need to know. Share only those numbers that are relevant to them. You don't need to share everything with everybody, but the numbers that are relevant to them based on their roles. And when they improve their numbers, they drive everybody's numbers. And people want to do well. So if they see the numbers, they know what they need to improve, and they will improve. And by doing so, you will find that you're spreading the load. Instead of the numbers be only the responsibility of some controller or some branch manager or general manager, now everybody is responsible as long as they know their numbers, right? They need to know the numbers. And that also leads for another question of, now we know my numbers, they know the numbers, so we can start considering giving certain incentives on that. So it opens that possibility also. Any questions that you'll have on that, and maybe our last poll for the day?
Yes, we have a few more questions that have come in. Someone wants to know, if a dealer signed up for analytics today, when would they expect to be up and running?
That's awesome question. Thank you for it. The nice thing about what we did with DIS Analytics is you get it as a product. If you buy it today, it takes us about 2 weeks, let's say scheduled over up to a month, but it takes us about 2 weeks, and you're going to get all your numbers. You might not know necessarily fully how to use the tool yet, but it's all the numbers are there. And then we're taking you through a process of kind of like once a week of teaching you how to do it. So we start by teaching you how to set up and how to give permission. And then we start teaching you on how to do configuration. And then we teach your groups, your different groups, on how to use what's in there, what's the content, what they can do, and how to use those dashboards. And we go like that for a few weeks, allowing you a week in between to digest it and prepare and implement that portion. So I would say within 2 weeks, and the numbers are there, and another 4 to 6 weeks, and you have all the tools and all the knowledge needed to use it. The dashboard themselves are very intuitive. They're very simple for people to use. They require a little bit of a mind shift, right? You're no longer looking into line by line, a lot of Excel sheet of lines. You're looking into some pictures, and you're using filters to ask the questions and to get the numbers. But they are very intuitive, very simple to use.
Great. Someone else wants to know, how do we get the mobile app?
Go to any of the stores, either the iOS or the Android. Look for Dealer Analytics and download the app, Dealer Analytics from DIS, of course, if you're a DIS user, and download it. You can also download it if you are not a DIS user. If you are not a user of analytics today, you can log in as a demo user, and that will show you what the app can do. If you are a user of analytics, log into it in the same way that you log into your analytics. The only difference is it's going to ask you for a enterprise ID, something called like, what is your enterprise? And that is what you see when you go into analytics. That's what you see in the URL of analytics. You're going to find it there. You're going to see a number at the beginning of the address. Put the same number, and you can go in. However, please remember that if you're doing that, you have to make sure that the user that you log into has permission to look into those mobile dashboards, because you control who can see what dashboards, right? So we are all about knowing your numbers, but again, know the numbers that are relevant to you. Some numbers we don't, I mean, not we, but you as a dealer don't want a certain person to know, right? So you control what they can see. You have to give the right permissions. If there are no permissions, they're not going to be able to see anything. So yeah, and great to see on the poll that most of you are comfortable with sharing data. So far, I think for our dealer analytics experience is sometimes we see the hesitation, but sharing of the data, I think my experience is overwhelmingly beneficial. As long as you can control what everybody sees. And that's a feature of our platform, at least. Okay, so for that, let's talk a little bit about how do we turning data into action. Maybe a few ideas for that. I'll share here some, right? So we know the numbers, right? And that is important, but really we want to know the numbers. Think about it. We want to know the numbers as a means, right? The reason the guys at Shark Tank want to know if you know your numbers, it's not because that by itself is the most important thing, is because it indicates that you'll be able to know where to go next, right? The goal is really to improve, right? I know my numbers so I can get where I want to get. If I don't know my numbers, I will not be able to get where I get, right? So measurement is a means. The goal is to do the improvement. Here is where comes in when you do this type of work, and with your regular reporting, it's even more difficult to do, but it's kind of like set your goals. So that's why a lot of times in reports, you're going to see a column of a budget, right, to help you with that. But set the goals, and our experience is that when team members know their numbers and they can see the goals, they can see how they compare to the goals, they are incentivized, and more than that, you can build it such that now they are accountable, because you said, okay, we are going, you set the goal to try and get to a certain number. And now you can see where the number is. So what are we going to do to get to the number? You can make it more accountable and more action oriented. And budget is just one form of goals, but you can set for example, with analytics like dealer analytics, you can set goals for technician efficiency. You can set goals for sales objectives. You can set goals on multiple of these numbers, so people can know where they stand. The other thing that you want to do is use it. Use these numbers and use these dashboards. Whenever you're talking to a manager, whenever you have team reviews, use that, right? Don't just say, oh yeah, I think my number is with that. No, just bring it up, and it's easy, and show it. And by doing that, make it a mindset to know the numbers, right? So I'll share here, for example, in our case, when I come here and I go into a report, right? It's that easy to go and say, okay, let's now talk that. Let's talk about the parts department, and here are your numbers. And your cell evolution is 15%. That's great. On the budget, you're at 100, or you were 117% last month. That's great. We can move on. Or if we're looking into the different accounts, what do you have this in this account? But we can look into the numbers. Make it such that we're looking into the numbers, and then if we assess by the numbers, then people are going to look into it, and people are going to start using that if their leadership takes them there. And I think what we find is, for the most part, achievement is fun. I make my numbers. I feel more satisfied. I feel more accomplished, and it's meaningful, right? So it's a little bit, the challenge here is set goals, get the accountability, set the action, it builds a mindset. That's what I'm trying to suggest here. Another thing to suggest to you is, you don't necessarily, you don't need to just give it to people. Here are your numbers, and then figure your way, right? You don't have to do it, right? How about if you did kind of like, let's take it step by step. Let's create some projects that we want to do, small projects that we can achieve, that can improve, right? So if I came back to your service department and say, okay, whatever our technician efficiency is, unless it's really awesome and there's nothing, we just need to maintain it. But that's not the case that I see in most cases. Let's just improve it by 2%. Let's improve it by 5%. Let's just set a goal to improve it by that much in the next 3 months, right? And now with analytics, you can see the numbers, but you can also, if you're using analytics dashboard, you can go in and your service manager can see, what do I need to do in order to improve? Where are my issues, right? And then they can start improving. And when they improve 5%, we already spoke about that, it's about $7,500 per year per technician, right? We have some users that reported to us 10 to 15% increase in the first 3 months. Now, this is not because they did a huge effort. It's because they could see suddenly all the mistakes that they're making, and they just corrected a few mistakes, and the numbers shot up. So you can see those improvement. It's easier at the beginning, and then it's lower at the other side. Also, you may think about different ways. To some people say, oh, if I have a technician efficiency, and again, technician efficiency is how much the technician bills for every hour that they work. And some people will tell me, oh, if I'm at 85%, 80%, I'm doing great, right? And that might be true. It depends on what business you are in. But remember, 100% is time and material, right? If I work time and material, I got to 100%. But 100% doesn't have to be the limit, right? I can go higher than that if we can be creative, right? If we can improve our quoting process, if we can if we can put some flat rating and have our technician accomplish in less than the flat rate, let's say for warranty type of work, right? Then suddenly we can increase above 100%. When we increase above 100%, again, my gross profit goes higher, my effective labor rate goes higher, and so on. That goes with it. So we can make it a simple project, right? Just let's increase that. That will cause everybody to use that tool, because otherwise they will not know what to do. Or if I want to increase turn rate, let's increase turn rate by whatever it is. I put here just a number, but let's say by 10%. Let's increase it, which will lead your parts people to say, okay, either we need to increase sales or we need to decrease inventory, one of the two. What can we do? And then they'll take a better look into things, and they'll find ways of doing it. For example, the price metrics that I suggested before, or sit in front of the system, look into all the work orders and see, okay, where did we get certain numbers that are not right, and fix it. So yeah, just put a small project, and people are going to start using and figuring out how to go about it. Reduce non-moving parts. It's just, let's make a project. Let's ask, I don't need you to get to the optimal, but just reduce it by $5,000, or reduce it by 1,000 units, or reduce it by a certain percentage, right? And let's see how much we can squeeze. Reduce the WIP time. Right, we're sitting on work orders for so long, especially the time to invoice. Let's make it a goal to reduce it by 10%. When I look into the numbers, I get a number. I can see an average of what it takes. I can see that average, right? Nobody can confuse people by saying, oh, but this one is very fast, and this one was much faster, and this one was much longer. We can see the average. Let's talk about the average. We want to decrease the average by 10%. What do? Right? And you're going to see that, I mean, initially it's going to be easier because most dealers, the way I see it, the way I experience it, are sitting on some of those documents that are sitting on them for a long time. So it's enough to clean those out and you get improvement. Later on, it becomes more difficult. But let's start with something simple, right? A technician incentive program. Let's put a technician incentive program in place. With analytics, I can see the numbers. They can see the numbers. If we explain to them the bonus that they're getting, then give them incentive to improve their numbers. And so on. You get here some additional numbers, some additional ideas that you may want to follow if it's applicable to you. And it doesn't have to be all of them at the same time, right? Each one of them, I believe, can achieve increase of profitability, and you can go and address them kind of like once a quarter, once every 6 months, or whatever it is. Just put a project, depending on what the project size is, and you're gonna get that. So a little bit of ideas of certain small improvements that you can do, but if you drive them as a project, you're going to drive your people to use it, because it is a little bit of a change in mindset, right? Oh, I need to know my number. I need to go look in here to understand why that number is. And then they start using the tool, and then they start creating the benefits and the return on investment that you're looking into. This is what overall this webinar is about. Any questions that you have on any aspect of this webinar?
Yes, we have a few questions, and we still have a little bit of time, so don't hesitate to put them into the question box. And if we don't get a chance to answer your question before the time's up, we'll be in touch with you. But someone's asking, what is an acceptable absorption rate for equipment dealers? What is the formula?
Yes, good question. Again, I will encourage you to go and look into the webinar that we did middle of last year. In general, I think, from my experience, absorption rate in general is something that is relative to kind of like what are the details of your business. Where you want to be, and most of the consultants, I believe you'll hear that from anywhere, is you want to be at an absorption rate of 100%. Now, when you calculate absorption rate, again, it depends on how you calculate it, and different people are calculating it a little bit differently. But the concept of it is you want your aftermarket operations to cover your fixed expenses, such that if you, let's say, stop selling or the market goes south really bad, you can leverage your past sales, right? The things that you sold in the past, you can leverage those in order to cover your fixed expenses. You might reduce your other expenses, but you want to leverage. You wanna cover at least your fixed expenses. So now, what are your aftermarket departments? Normally, it's at least your service department and your parts department. And some people include in it also the rental department, because it's not directly related to sales. And sometimes market conditions are such that when sales are coming down, actually rents may go up, right? So some people include that also. It depends if you include it or not. And again, based on that, you can shift your absorption expectations of where do you want it to be. And to the equation, so I said for the equation is you take your service, parts plus rental or not, you calculate your gross profit in those departments, and you divide that by the total of all the expenses that are fixed expenses. And some people will take all expenses, right? They don't care if it's fixed or not. They just want to cover all expenses. So that's I hope that that's answered the question.
Yeah, and I've just popped the links to a couple of fixed absorption resources in the chat as well, including the recording for the webinar that Udi mentioned. So you can all go look at that after. And we have someone else asking, what does sales evolution mean, or profit evolution?
That's the way that the sales or the profit or the cost or every other parameter that you have is changing over time, right? So you want to see, at least in analytics, when you see it, when you can visualize it, then you can see month to month, year to year, week to week, whatever that is, right? In analytics, you have not just the concept of drill through, but you have also the concept of drill up and down. Then drill up and down is going to change the time axis on the bottom, right? So you can say, okay, show it to me month by month, show it to me quarter by quarter, show it to me year by year. And then you can see in the evolution of how it evolves in between this period of time. And that visually gives you the trending that you have. What is the trend? Are we improving? Are we not improving? Are we changing or not? And just quickly, I will try and give you an example here of evolution, the way that we look at it at Dealers Analytics. So this will be on your cost and sales, right? And you'll see we call it evolution of sales and cost. And I'll put it for, let's look at it for last 2 years. And let's look at that, right? And now you can see in the evolution, you can see how it changed month by month. So do I have a period that, do I have a high period and a low period? What is the trend, right? Do I have a trend, for example, on the gross margin, right? In this case, you can see that we are pretty flat in the trend. We're not going up and down. We're just shifting around a number. But sometimes you'd see a clear trend going down, or you'll see a clear trend going up. Hopefully that answered the question.
Okay, so we have time for just one or two more questions. Someone wants to know, how is effective labor rate mapped?
Well, the effective labor rate is going to be the calculation, the equation that you're going to have is going to be how much we charge, right? How much we build for a specific, doesn't matter if it's a specific technician or all the technicians, right? You can look at it in any way in analytics, right? It's an easy shift between view. But how much did we bill, right? So how much did we charge versus how many hours the person worked, right? So we pay a person a certain amount. We charge for him a certain amount. But then given the efficiency that he's using, right, we get some effective labor rate. What are we really actually getting for every hour of our technicians? And of course, you never want it to be under what you pay, right? That's going to be a real bad number.